Hi students! Welcome to this lesson, a deeper exploration of John Agard's Checking Out Me history. While we previously touched upon the poem's narrative and themes, today we'll start by examining Agard's use of Caribbean Creole dialect, which reflects the speaker's cultural and linguistic heritage. Next, we will explore the symbolic significance of the bandage in the poem and its representation of historical suppression. Moving on to structure, we'll look at how the repetition of "dem tell me" reinforces the speaker's skepticism towards conventional historical narratives to create a rhythmic quality. Finally, we'll consider Agard's employment of occasional internal and slant rhymes, which add a musicality and cohesion to the poem. Just to recap quickly, the relevant themes for this poem are identity and heritage and memory and loss. Let's begin. Agard employs a distinctive Caribbean Creole dialect throughout the poem. This dialect reflects the speaker's cultural and linguistic background, adding authenticity and depth to the narrative. This is evident in the quote, "Dem tell me about 1066 and all dat, dem tell me about Dick Whittington and he cat." The dialect establishes a direct connection between the speaker and their cultural roots, highlighting their unique perspective on historical narratives. By using Caribbean Creole, Agard challenges conventional English and standard historical accounts. The non-standard spelling and pronunciation, like dem for they and he for his, assert the speaker's right to narrate history in their own linguistic terms. This resistance underscores the poem's theme of reclaiming and asserting one's own history, culture, and identity. It positions the speaker's voice as central to the narrative, emphasizing the significance of personal and collective histories that have been overlooked or suppressed. Another significant point of language is the symbol of the bandage in the poem, which represents a metaphorical covering or restriction imposed on the speaker's understanding of history. It symbolizes the suppression or omission of certain narratives and perspectives from traditional historical accounts. We see this in the lines, "Bandage up me eye with me own history, blind me to me own identity." The bandage represents the historical narratives imposed on the speaker, which obscure or suppress their own history and identity. It suggests that mainstream historical accounts have covered up or ignored aspects of the speaker's cultural heritage and personal identity. The act of being blinded by this bandage metaphorically illustrates how the speaker's understanding of their true identity and heritage has been obscured. The bandage not only physically covers the eye, but also symbolically blinds the speaker to their own cultural heritage, preventing them from fully recognizing and embracing their identity. The metaphor also conveys the speaker's desire to remove this bandage, to uncover and reclaim their own history and identity. It reflects a longing for clarity, self-understanding, and the freedom to define oneself outside of imposed narratives. Moving on to structure. Throughout the poem, Agard uses the refrain-like repetition of "dem tell me" to create a rhythmic quality that emphasizes the speaker's skepticism and critical engagement with the historical narratives they have been taught. The repeated phrase serves as a structural anchor, punctuating the poem and highlighting the speaker's insistence on questioning imposed histories. This refrain mimics oral traditions and storytelling techniques, where repetition is used to emphasize key themes and ideas, enhancing the poem's oral performance and making it engaging and memorable. By frequently repeating "dem tell me," Agard underscores the speaker's desire to reclaim their own history and challenge dominant narratives that have marginalized or silenced their cultural heritage. This repetition conveys a sense of resistance and empowerment as the speaker asserts their right to question and reinterpret history from their own perspective, refusing to passively accept imposed narratives. Checking Out Me history does not strictly adhere to a regular rhyme scheme. However, Agard does occasionally employ internal and slant rhymes throughout the poem. Slant rhymes are rhyming structures with words that share similar sounds but aren't exactly perfect rhymes. These rhymes add a musicality and a sense of cohesion to the verses, contributing to the poem's overall rhythm and flow. For example, in the lines "Lick back Napoleon, Battalion and First Black Republic, born Toussaint de Thorn," we see a mix of slant rhyme and internal rhyme. The end rhymes include Napoleon with born and thorn, creating a satisfying conclusion to each line and a sense of closure within the stanza. Internal rhymes like back and black, Battalion and Toussaint also add a rhythmic quality to the lines, linking them together phonetically. This deliberate use of rhyme enhances the rhythmic flow and musicality of the stanza. The repetition of similar sounds through slant rhymes, Napoleon, born, thorn, creates a cadence that mimics oral traditions and storytelling, making the poem more engaging and memorable. This rhythmic pattern not only aids in the poem's delivery, but also underscores the significance of the historical figures mentioned, such as Toussaint Louverture, by giving their names a lyrical emphasis. By pairing names like Napoleon with Toussaint, Agard juxtaposes powerful figures from colonial history with those who resisted colonial oppression. Today we covered how Agard employs a distinctive Caribbean Creole dialect throughout the poem to add authenticity and depth, reflecting the speaker's cultural and linguistic background. This use of dialect, evident in phrases like "dem tell me," challenges conventional English and standard historical accounts, asserting the speaker's right to narrate history in their own terms. We also explored the metaphor of the bandage, which represents the suppression of the speaker's understanding of their own history and identity, imposed by mainstream historical narratives. Additionally, we examined the poem's structure, particularly the refrain-like repetition of "dem tell me," which emphasizes the speaker's critical engagement with imposed histories and their desire to reclaim their own narrative. Finally, we discussed Agard's use of internal and slant rhymes, which enhance the poem's musicality, rhythm, and flow, drawing attention to significant historical figures and reinforcing the tradition of oral storytelling. Watch the rest of the GCSE English Literature course at Sophos Education.